We're back with another episode of Dyson Sphere Program, and last time we created this monstrosity of a factory that you see here, but it came to a halt because we have got a lack of these circuit boards being made in this assembler machine, and we can't really do too much about that because of the bad placements of buildings that I've put here. So I've had a bit of time to think about this, and rather than me try to compress everything into a small factory, we've been given an actual world to build on top of. So why not take advantage of all the room here? So I'm going to let this little factory continue making things for me, but I think I'm going to explore a little bit further out and find some other nodes that we can use. And I'm thinking that this universal exploration upgrade for our mecha that's going to allow us to view vein distribution over the planet is really going to come into play here. And it's going to be a very easy upgrade to get, as it only requires 10 of these blue science matrices. And we have amassed just a few of them during the off time, so that's us now got the universal exploration upgrade. So we can now access this detailed display option, and there's a few kind of things in here that we can have a look at, which if we click the veins distribution one, we can now easily see all the different materials on the planet. And we can also unlock the universal exploration upgrade level 2, and it's pretty simple to do. We only require 200 of these blue science matrices, but it looks as if it's going to take quite some time. So we'll activate that and just let the research happen. And as we wait on that upgrade, I'm also going to get the Mecha core upgrade, which is very easy, just 20 iron ingots and 20 copper ingots, so I will unqueue that as well. And there's two other upgrades that we can get for our mech: vertical construction and veins utilization, but these upgrades are going to require red science cubes, so we're going to need to wait on that. So in the meantime, I'm going to go find myself some more iron ore nodes and establish some more mini factories. And I think I'll create some factories to make some buildings for us, like these conveyor belts, and even possibly some of these smelters, so that I don't have to. Well, that's Universal Exploration Level 2 now, which means that we can review the vein reserves in the whole planetary system, so that's also going to be rather handy. I'm thinking for this mini factory here, these are just going to make conveyor belts for me. The two mining machines that I've got here, combined they're taking out 7 veins, and the other one's taking out 4 veins, so that's 11 veins in total, which will be 330 resources per minute whenever it's powered on. And with these conveyor belts being able to take out 6 cargo every second, or 360 cargoes every minute, that should definitely be more than sufficient to supply them into these smelters. And if I'm reading the sorter arm stats correctly, they're able to do 3 trips per second, which is going to be 180 trips every minute. So that means they should be able to take 180 items from the conveyor belts into these smelters every minute. And again, the smelters only can do 60 items per minute, so this should all be stupidly efficient to begin with. Conveyor belt Mark 1s require 2 iron ingots and 1 gear every second, and that produces 3 of the belts. And the assembling machines are able to make 1 gear every second just using 1 iron ingot. So with all of that in mind, I'm thinking the factory for conveyor belts should look something like this. Well, there's only really one way to test. Let's get this thing powered and see. Well, that's another mini thermal power station set up. Unfortunately, we actually need power to begin with for it to operate, so we'll stick a wind turbine here, and hopefully that'll be enough to start the process. And this little substation is now producing about 7 megawatts for us. So let's drag some wires over to our new conveyor belt factory, and that should be the last tower that should power all of this on, so we will see what happens. Well, so far so good with this. Nothing's really sitting on the belts and everything's keeping moving, and we should now be producing more than enough conveyor belts. Oh well, I take that back. We now have a backlog of iron ingots on our conveyor belts, although by the looks of it, that's because our assembler machines actually have a product stacking issue, which means it's actually a problem with these Mark II sorter arms. I'm wondering if I could ease things here by putting on another sorter arm into our storage. These sorter arms are doing 1.5 trips per second, which is the same of 90 items per minute, and with this assembler machine creating 45 per minute, I thought 90 would have been more than sufficient for this. Well, regardless, 2 sorter arms seem to have fixed things here. We now don't really have a product stacking issue, and we're getting a lot more inside our storage. Well, I did try and make it efficient, but at least we are getting conveyor belts out of this. So I'm going to find another iron ore node and see what else we can make. Well, right after we get this Mecha core upgrade, which now seems to have unlocked a lot more upgrades for our mecha. Well, I've had a brief look down all of these upgrades, and some of them require some materials that we don't yet have, but others, like this communication control that will unlock another construction drone for use, just require some blue science cubes, so we'll get those first. And we have another set of iron veins, which means another potential factory, and I think we'll go with an electric motor factory, because these components seem to be in high demand just now. And again, looking at our miners, one of them is covering 6 veins and the other one is covering 5 veins. So that's again 11 veins. We've got the same kind of setup as the last one. Although at some point we will need to bring copper into the mix because we do need to make these magnetic coils as well. Well, I think that's the iron infrastructure now up. So just to bring some copper over into the mix. Unfortunately, we have a copper vein pretty close by. And nothing too fancy with this one. We'll just get the copper ore out of the copper veins and get them smelted into ingots and then just pull them over. And that's the copper line now done, so just to get power into these. And everything is looking absolutely fine at the copper miner. So we'll just follow the copper ingots back to the iron factory, and everything at the iron factory seems to be going alright as well. So we now have a factory producing our electric motors. Just not very well, seeing as we've just run out of power. Our power grid for the couple of factories that we have set up here requires 11 megawatts of power, and we are just producing 300 kilowatts at the moment just from that one wind turbine. So that's a secondary power station set up. We'll just put down another wind turbine, and I think for now I need to dismantle that Tesla tower just to let them get up and running. Well, everything now seems to be up and running, so I'll put the Tesla tower back down. And we are producing nearly 14 megawatts of power now, so that should be more than sufficient. I can easily build more of these little substations should we need more power. But let's go over and check these now, and they are looking so much better. Although these engines are actually very slow to make, but we only require 60 of them for our mechanical frame upgrade, and this is going to give us a bit more movement speed. So we'll start that research, and because our factory is now planet-wide, I think unlocking Mecha flight is actually going to be very handy. Well, that's us just unlocked our mechanical frame, so we can now move faster, and I already have all of the components required for our drive engine upgrade, so I'll just start this research. Well, as we wait on our flight upgrade to complete, I'm very tempted to see into making these sorter Mark 2s, which will require these drive engines, and because our sorter arms are on the other side of the world, that would require me taking these from storage here, quite some distance by conveyor belt. Well, there's our drive engine level 1, so we are now able to fly. So if I press space and space again, oh yes, this is going to be much easier to get around the place. Now the question is, am I able to build whilst in flight mode? So I've got conveyor belt there, and I think I can actually. So yep, I think I'll just take a conveyor belt all the way back to base. So for our sorter Mark 2 arms, we just simply need the Mark 1 arm plus one of these engine drive units. And my little robots are going to take quite some time building the rest of this conveyor belt from where that plant is. So in the meantime, I'll just get things established here. And just like that, we now have a mini factory producing our Mark II sorters. So I believe that's most of the components that we require now being made in factories, as well as most of the logistic buildings being created as well. So I think it's time for some new technology upgrades. Starting off with smelting purification technology, which is going to unlock our silicone ore, it's going to unlock energetic graphite, and it's finally going to give us some high purity silicon. All for the very cheap price of only 100 blue science cubes. And the steel smelting technology is going to give us our steel beams, so we'll also get that because it's equally as cheap. And we'll be able to use the steel beams for further upgrades to our mecha, as well as these energetic graphite cylinders required for our energy circuit upgrade. The energy matrix technology is going to unlock our red science cubes, but it's locked behind a few different researches here, one of which is our fluid storage encapsulation, and that's going to unlock some storage tanks as well as some water pumps for us, and it only requires 50 blue science cubes. And the other is our high efficiency plasma control, which is going to give us some prisms as well as some plasma exciters, and finally some wireless power towers. And again, it's nice and cheap, only being 50 blue science cubes. And I don't have a clue what half of those new buildings are, so we're going to have some fun learning about those as well. Well, a short while later, that's those technologies now complete, and we've got a couple of new components to play with, as well as a couple of different buildings as well. So our silicon ore, as well as our glass materials, are both made in a smelter using stone, and our energetic graphite cylinders are made in a smelter as well, but using coal. And finally, steel is made by putting iron ingots inside our smelter. So I'm going to place a couple of miners on top of this stone, and we'll start producing some of these new materials. So our smelter can make 30 pieces of glass every minute, and this mining machine is mining 150 stone per minute. So we'll get 5 of these smelters up and running making glass for us, and that's going to require a 1:5 balancer, which is a little bit complicated to do, so I'll need to set this up first. But ultimately, we end up with something that looks like this. and I think this should split it 5 ways. We've just got one of the belts kind of chase its way back round and split off into the 2. So we'll see if this works. Put some sorter arms into them. So these 5 smelters should now all be making our glass for us, and they should be making them at a rate of 30 per minute, and everything should be going pretty nicely here. So let's get some assemblers in and actually do something with the glass. And really the only item that we can make for now are these prisms that require 3 of the glass to make 2 of them, and they are used in our plasma exciters if we had some magnetic coils to go alongside them. So I think I'll turn some of these glass being made into prisms and just store the rest of them. And after I put the last arm in there, everything here is looking pretty grand. So we've now got prisms and we've got glass being made and stored for us. And it looks as if we do have everything balanced on these conveyor belts. It's just rather slow coming out, even though we're getting 150 out per minute. So I reckon at some point we're really going to need to beef up our conveyor belts. Yes, because we're certainly not going to get 30 glass made per minute here. That's very, very slow, which of course is going to affect our prism manufacturing. Although our next upgrade for high efficiency logistics systems does actually give us our conveyor belts Mark II, so that actually might be not bad to go for. We will require 100 of these red cubes in order to get that, and if I'm following the tech tree correctly, that means we need the energy matrix, which means we're first going to need to get plasma extraction. So let's get that, because that's nice and cheap to do. And in the meantime, I think I'll set up another mini factory that will make us our silicon ore from the stone here. Very similar principle to how we've made these prisms. But a simple 3-way split will do here, seeing as these smelters are only making 6 of these silicon ores every minute, but requiring 10 stones every 10 seconds or 60 stones every minute, and our mining machine is currently producing 210 stones per minute. So that should be more than sufficient to make our silicon ore here. And our energetic graphite cylinders are made inside our smelters, and if I put some coal into this, we're going to get 30 out per minute. So that means our mining machine that produces 180 per minute could just be divided by 6. So I now need to make a 1:6 belt splitter. So we'll add some power to the mix, and that should be our graphite cylinders now being created. And we also have just finished our plasma research, so now we can extract crude oil resources, and we can start making some of these oil extractor buildings as well. And now that our plasma extraction technology is completed, we can start the energy matrix research. In the meantime, I've amassed enough of these materials to get these upgrades, so we're going to get the inventory capacity one, as well as the energy circuit one. I'm interested in these wireless power towers. From what I can read is I can put them down instead of the Tesla towers, and that means if I'm ever out of power myself, I can pass them and they'll also charge me. So I'm going to grab some of these prisms and some of the magnetic coils and make some of these plasma exciters so I can make one of the towers. And by the looks of it, they have a lot longer reach than the normal Tesla towers. A lot longer reach. Well, our current power source isn't doing too well, seeing as we've got so many factories there and not enough electricity being produced. But I'm still very interested to see if this is going to be able to charge me. So flight mode, and let's just hover by this and we'll see. And I'm not sure. I'm able to hover just for a little bit here, and my power is going down, but not very quickly. What happens if I go further away? Well, when I go further away, we get our research unlocked, so that's our red science cubes, and I think my power is reducing at a faster rate, but I'm unsure. So we'll stop flight mode, and I think we'll maybe upgrade all of our Tesla coils to these wireless power towers, because I think that's going to be the way forward. So inside our matrix lab now, we've got our blue science cubes, and our new red science cubes. And our red science cubes are going to require 2 of these energetic graphite cylinders to make, as well as some hydrogen. And fluids is something we've not yet looked into. So I don't think that's a bad place to end there, and maybe next time we'll look into how to make these red science cubes. We've gotten quite a few new factories up and running today, which I'm pretty pleased about. It is definitely getting a lot busier and a lot more spaghetti than I would like, and we've certainly got a kind of issue with our power that I'm going to sort soon. But I think we've actually done not too bad today. Next time we'll look into fluids, I will get some of those red science cubes established. But I think in the off time I'm going to see if I can tidy some things up around here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.